The Nun, probably one of the most scariest and creepiest looking horror figures that Hollywood has ever put out in a while. After debuting as the main antagonist in The Conjuring 2 and becoming a character standout, Hollywood decided to greenlit a spin-off prequel called The Nun. Although both Conjuring films are based on a true story, the film that the demon nun Valak is in is actually 100% made up and is extremely loosely based off the demon Valak in the lesser key installment, sharing no characteristics but only just the name. Taking place in 1952, being the first chronological film in the Conjuring Universe, a Roman priest and nun in training is sent by the Vatican to Romania to investigate a mysterious death of a local nun and later find out that the monastery that they've been sent to has a lot more secrets. Back in 2018, I was actually very much looking very forward to this film. I mean, not only is the nun it's very creepy to just look at, but back then the Conjuring Universe seemed to be on the right track. Out of the 4 films prior, they only had one bad movie, and that was the first Annabelle. And then later they had The Conjuring 2, which I just said right now, it was a critical and financial success. And then they later gave some redemption to the creepy doll in Annabelle Creation. So yeah, it seemed like everything was going in the right direction. So when I walked into this movie theater, I expected The Nun. And then afterwards, I wanted none of it. Because this movie was a huge disappointment, and not also just that, it was just bad. I honestly don't know what they were thinking behind the scenes. I mean, this film had every potential to be one of the greatest horror films out there. I mean, if you really think about it, it has a remarkable villain that's coming off a very successful sequel. It made a brief cameo in a successful spin-off, and then now you have this perfect concept to be a very suspenseful gothic horror film, a genre which we don't really get these days. They just blew it. I mean, the first 5 minutes of it was actually fine, but it really wasn't anything special, and I was thinking it was gonna get better afterwards, but no, it just went to hell. The direction here is terrible, and it shows. Every time they execute a scary scene, it's nothing more than a movie loaded with very predictable jump scares. It really just depends more on loud noises than it does trying to be a good horror film. And every time they try to do a jump scare, it is so poorly executed with this awkward cinematography that it just feels like an underwhelming result. I tried watching this film in my room with the lights off and headset on, full volume since I've only seen the film once and that was in theaters, but instead, just fell asleep. And the writing here is just as guilty as well. Not only does it have inconsistent, illogical storytelling, but it also feels like they're adding a lot of comedic scenes that are unnecessary, and it takes away all the seriousness in this film. And it feels like as though they're trying to recopy what the MCU does. And we all know how the MCU does, that they like to add their comedic one-liners and funny moments just so they can have a good time with the audiences. But there's a difference between superhero films that are supposed to be fun, actiony, or sometimes seriousness. I can get into the debate with that one later, but that's a different story. And then there's a difference between horror films. If there's any good thing in this film, it's actually the acting. Technically, no one here gives off a bad performance. Actually, I kind of like who they casted in this film. Taissa Farmiga and Bichir as Sister Irene and Father Burke, they're okay. They could have been fleshed out a lot more, and they really didn't have that much bond to the audiences to connect with, so there really does at times feel like it's hollow. But that's the part where I actually do have to blame the writing direction for this film. Other than that, I was actually very impressed on how they shot this film in an actual real location. It wasn't on a green screen, it wasn't on a set piece. They actually flew all the way to the real Romania and shot it at a monastery, and that's what I'm a big more fan of. I'm a fan of practical. From a movie studio's perspective, that if you actually fly all the way and have to carry everything, you gotta add more to the budget. I get that, that's just business, but the way how I see it, the more real it is, the more it'll look better on camera. The last thing I could probably try to defend this movie for is maybe the special effects makeup. I mean, the demon nun Valak does look terrifying, but then again, we saw that in The Conjuring 2, which is the exact same copy and paste, so it really doesn't add all that much points to this film. Basically, if I can summarize this entire movie in a nutshell, the demon nun was actually scary in The Conjuring 2, but wasn't scary in its own movie. Pathetic. For the final score, I'm gonna give The Nun a 2 out of 10. Should you actually watch this movie? The short answer, no, if you're trying to look for a good horror film. But if you're one of those completionists like me and is a big fan of the Conjuring Universe and you're kind of curious about that, I really hope that you try to find some kind of fun into this movie. I highly doubt it because you're not really gonna... Hey guys, this better be good. I'm trying to film the... Of course.